This is part 5 of my Back to Homeschool planning series where we decide what a typical homeschool week might look like. Welcome back to Regular Secular Mama. If you're new here, my name is Cassie and I'm a homeschooling mom to 2 kiddos currently ages 9 and 12 years old. If you watched part 3 of this series, then you would have seen an older version of what I call an ideal week. No matter if I'm planning digitally or if I have a paper planner or a notebook, I always like to have some idea of what a typical perfect homeschool week might look like. Of course, seasons change, lifestyles change, you start a new sport or you start a new class or something isn't working. That's okay. This isn't a, a template that we're going to follow every single week. But for a forward planner like myself, it's kind of nice to have an idea of what a typical week should look like. I'll be doing this one on paper with you, and I honestly don't look at it that much during the year. I really just like the process of sitting down and thinking out what a typical week might look like and how I want our weeks to go. I do come back and take a look at it sometimes if I'm feeling really scattered and I just don't even know what's going on in our homeschool anymore. And I'll definitely make a new one if something changes and we, have a big change in our homeschool. So grab yourself a piece of paper or a notebook or open a new spreadsheet and let's sit down and see what a typical week might look like for you. In my regular planner, I have our weekly schedule or our ideal weekly schedule that I set up, I think it was around our winter break. Somewhere around there. So this is a bit outdated. And I really don't even look at this that often unless I'm just feeling completely lost or scatterbrained and I just want to, get a feel for how my week looks as a whole. But I do like to at least go through the process of mapping this out just to see if I feel like my time is being used well and just to make sure I know where my time is going. So even though I really don't look at this all that often, it just feels nice to have it in here. I made myself, a fancy little chart, but really you could just jot this down in a notebook. It does not have to be fancy. I liked it though, so I went ahead and printed out another copy of the exact same layout, and I'll go ahead and just start filling this in. First, I'll go ahead and mark off things that definitely recur every single week. For example, on Friday mornings, we always go to the park no matter what. And if I'm being realistic, we're usually there until almost 2 o'clock. They also usually have an art class now, which is on Wednesday afternoons. Other than that, at this time, we don't have any recurring times or appointments or classes, so I'm not going to fill in any more just yet. I know soccer season is coming up in a couple of months though, so at that time I might need to make myself a new one or just add something to this. The next thing I usually add to this is meal times because those tend to be fairly regular. Next, I'll go ahead and add in our bedtime. I am a stickler for bedtime. I do not mess around when it comes to kids going to bed and giving me my quiet time. So that is a non-negotiable 8 o'clock sharp. Now that I have kind of a visual on how the structure of our day normally works, I can kind of fill in the times that work best to do our schoolwork together. I've waffled back and forth between whether or not morning is best for group work or individual work. At one point we did do morning basket and had kind of that stuff to do together in the morning, and then we switched and did that stuff after lunch. Now we're back to actually doing our read aloud first thing in the morning and then history right after that. It does not take us until lunch like it used to because we used to also do science as well. I usually wind up helping my son directly after that with whatever he needs to work on. He gets pretty jumpy after lunch, so I usually wind up switching and helping my daughter with her stuff. And then at some point I have to get my son back on track. Now, ideally, I will have some time in the afternoon for me to work on my channel. That doesn't always happen though, but in a perfect world, that's what I would be doing. Yeah, so it's really nothing revolutionary. It's just a nice way to get a visual of how my week is going to look. Obviously, this is not perfect. Our Thursdays are not always going to follow this pattern even or be perfectly lined up with the times, but this gives me a nice idea to visualize, okay, I know we're going to have this chunk of time out on Wednesdays, so I need to make sure that I'm not planning too many things for Wednesdays. Realistically, we do nothing at all on Friday except go to the park, and maybe I get some time to work on my channel, so I try not to plan any school on Friday if I can help it. Obviously, if I had a lot of time commitments or, scheduled things, this would look a lot more detailed. I may even space this out more. This is just to give me an overview of how my week might look. When it comes time to sit down and actually plan for our current week in our homeschool, I'll pull up Notion and filter for this week's lessons. I've been doing some plan with me style videos for a couple of months now, so if you're interested in seeing how I plan for a current week, you can check out that playlist up here. I really hope this video series was helpful for some of you. That was my goal, to get some organizational tips out there for those that are planning for a new school year. I know it can be really daunting sometimes, especially if you're new to homeschooling, figuring out what you're going to use and how you're going to make it work. If you did find this helpful, I would love to hear from you. I love interacting with people down in the comment section, so definitely leave a comment and tell me what you found the most helpful. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye!